turn the volume off on my laptop. There we go.
Yeah, so hello everyone. We were having a little bit of technical issues, but it's only the third time we've done it. So hopefully Scott will be able to join us. I might have given him the wrong link. But yeah, so our plan today is we've got Chris here from Franklyn Guitars, and as me and Arran, as we have had for the last few weeks, and we're going to find out a bit about Chris, but we wanted to focus today on talking about guitar shows. I know that I went to my first one as an exhibitor last weekend. Chris has been to a few. Arran, have you actually been? Do you have them in Australia?
Yeah, I was thinking about this to talk about with you guys. There's one that I've been to just as a viewer, as a guest to go and have a look. So the Melbourne Guitar Show, so in Victoria, that runs each year. They didn't run it for the few COVID years, so I've been twice to that to see. But really, that's the only one that I'm sort of aware of. If there's sort of smaller ones around, I sort of haven't discovered those. And the Melbourne Guitar Show, they do have sort of smaller builders as well, whether it's pedal makers or guitar builders. But it seems to be actually the acoustic. They've got like a level in the place that has acoustic guitars, and there's quite a lot of different brands of acoustic guitars and builders that you might not be aware of. But the electric guitars, they have Fender and Vox have got big stalls where they show off their latest stuff. There's a lot of the guitar shops, they have stalls where they've got a lot of secondhand gear or new gear for sale. So there is sort of some smaller builders, but even then they almost seem to be those that are doing it as a professional. There's not sort of people like me. There's a few smaller builders, but it doesn't sort of seem to be the same kind of thing that you guys have had. Because that's what I was going to say. It seems that there seems to be quite a lot in the UK that you guys have got access to.
Yeah. I mean,
they keep discovering new ones all the time as well, so they keep turning up.
And the one we went to this weekend was a new one, just like brand new. So look, what I would say to everyone is I'm going to try and monitor the chat this time, so that if anyone's got any questions or thoughts they want to put forward, especially questions for Chris or about guitar shows, you can put them in the chat. But there might be a bit of a delay. We might not get onto them straight away. I might sort of build up some questions to come back to a bit later. And also, I think people would probably just chat amongst themselves in the chat as well. And obviously, if people are watching this later, I don't know if you can see the live chat, so I'm going to put the questions on the screen as they come in, the interesting ones. But you can obviously join in the discussion thread. So I've been trying to follow along from the previous episodes and make sure I respond to everyone. Yeah, I hope that sounds good. We'll sort of see what happens if Scott is able to join us or not. This is our third time doing this, our first time with an extra guest, hence multiple links, which I might confuse myself with. But I think I can see Todd's in the chat. I'm hoping Todd might join us in the next week or two as well as a guest, which would be brilliant. And what we're really open to, if anyone else has something they want to share or something they want to talk about, let us know, because we want this to be a sort of evolving thing, changing each host each time. Maybe it's all new, we don't know, but it's all come from the Guitar Builders Collective, which I'm going to ask Chris about in a moment, because Chris has been highly involved with the website that I've just put up there.
Yeah.
So actually, maybe Chris, I could start like that. Just asking you how you became a guitar builder and what sparked your interest in it all originally.
Yeah, I think it was, I always say 4 years ago, but I might have been saying that for a few years now. But about 4 years ago, I hadn't been playing guitar or doing anything with guitars for about 10 years. And I found my old guitar. And one of the reasons it put me off it was it didn't stay in tune for the whole duration of one song. So I thought, I can fix this. Because it had a crack in the neck pocket. And I thought, yeah, so I can sort all that out. And I got that working. The problem wasn't the crack in the neck socket. The problem was the neck wasn't screwed in tight enough. But this was part of the discovery. And I kind of just got addicted from there. At that point, shame to say, I didn't even know that you could intonate I didn't know the saddles and the bridge went up and down or backwards and forwards or or any of that. I'm just a part-time player, I guess. And after that, I just kind of got addicted to it. I found some wood down the end of this garage that the previous occupant had left and kind of glued it together. I didn't even own a router at that point, and kind of chiseled out the cavities and put guitars together. And it was kind of gets addictive because you start looking for people doing it on YouTube as well. It's like, oh, I've learned how to do that. Oh, I could do that, and I could do that. So yeah, and I think gradually over time, I was trying out more and more silly ideas because I thought I could make a guitar out of pine, or I could make a guitar out of OSB or things like that. I think I didn't want to be taken seriously, otherwise people might judge me on the same level as everyone else. And then I suddenly made a guitar. I didn't suddenly make it. I made a guitar for my brother, and I thought I quite like to make these for other people. But I knew I wasn't quite up to scratch to make guitars for other people. And I got in touch with Lewis from LT Custom Guitars, and he actually guided me through a build. And he told me all of his jigs he used and techniques, and most importantly, how not to throw yourself on the floor and start crying when it goes wrong. Because he had a way out of it. Every time something went wrong, he had a way out of it. So it was, and those are the times you really learn, I think. And
how did you come across Lewis then?
Well, he used to advertise, him and somebody else called Kanji or Katana Guitars or something like that. They used to offer courses which would go over one weekend, and you'd build like a telly over a weekend. And he took that down, but I got in touch with him anyway. And through the course of talking to him, I think he worked out that I wanted more than just to go and build a telly somewhere. I wanted to do something more than that. So I'd go to his one weekend, and then I'd come and try and repeat it at home with my own tools. So he kind of tailored what he was teaching to work for me, really. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. If I was probably closer to somewhere else doing courses like Crimson or something like that, I would probably have gone, but I can't really. It's a bit of a commute over to the West Country every day. So proximity was one of the things that I thought would be good with Lewis as well. So,
I mean, I hope that YouTube is full of things to help teach people, but there's nothing like being there with someone in real life.
Putting what you've made in somebody else's hands and then going, well, this could be better, or this could be. Yeah, actually, last weekend was one of the best bits of advice. Stuart from SBC, he picked up one of my guitars and he was like, "Yeah, you need to sort that out." And he said, "Because that would really piss me off if I was playing it." And when someone's that blunt, it's like, "Yeah, okay," because people might go, "Oh, yeah, that could be better, and that could be better." But if someone gives you a direct bit of advice, it's like, "Yeah, okay, that works for me."
I'm intrigued. What was it that would piss him off?
It's actually this guitar here. It's you don't need to see it, but the transition from the neck into the headstock, it kind of bulged out a bit too soon. Oops. Break it. Anyway, yeah, so I just got to kind of refine it. I think I remember what happened now. When I first did that, I tried to do, you know how on the back of a Fender headstock, it kind of goes to a slight point? And I tried to imitate that on the back of a tilting back headstock, and I'm not quite sure why, but there was still some remnants left from that. But again, that's getting a guitar in somebody else's hands who knows how to use it can give you a good critique that way.
Absolutely. So you're obviously making them for yourself and for your brother, but how did you transition then to Franklyn Guitars? Where did that name come from? Because I know it's not your surname, and promote them as a thing.
Yeah, I think through doing it on YouTube, I knew how much I was enjoying it, and I think I've had I'm not doing it as ego or anything, but I wanted other people to play them, and maybe because I can't play particularly well. And that was one of the things I worked through with Lewis, actually, was designing a guitar that I could sell to other people. The starting point was obviously a Strat, but then refining how deep the calves go with a set neck. And personally, I don't like trims, so I put a hardtail in. I've realised I'm talking and I completely forgot what the question was.
I was just wondering how you got onto making for other people and then coming up with your company name.
I think I'd always had it in mind that I wanted to make it for other people once I got the addiction. And I think part of my personality is if I don't have a solid end line or a deadline or even just a goal, I won't finish it. So if I've got the idea that I've got to make a guitar for a show, then I'm going to make it and I'll get it done in time. Yeah, I realise I'm not really answering your question still, but
But what about the Franklyn Guitars? Where did that?
Oh, the name Franklyn. For years on internet forums and IRC channels and chat rooms and stuff like that, the name Chris is way too common. The name Chris Andrews is way too common. So I started calling myself Franklyn. Little did I know I'd not really spelt it in a very common way, but that's why I could probably register it on every website. So I kind of, so I kind of then established. I thought maybe I'll put my real name on the front of it. I've taken it a bit too far because my third son's middle name is actually Franklyn now, named after the made-up name. So yeah, no, it was just a way of having a unique name online that wasn't registered everywhere because I didn't want to have letters at the end of my name. Sorry, numbers at the end of my usernames and stuff. So that's where the Franklyn came from, and it kind of just caught on for me.
And yeah, that's really like that. I see some people in the comments laughing at that. So did this sort of you, because you've done a little bit of YouTube, but also I noticed you set up the Guitar Builders Collective website as well. So obviously you're someone that's been on forums outside of guitars for a while. Yeah,
I've kind of, I always like chatting to people online about various different hobbies and topics and things like that. I think I just thought that one day a group of people chatting in a private room somewhere isn't going to be inclusive enough for everyone. So I set up the Guitar Builders website. I'm still not 100% settled if that's the right software to use because it's kind of looking a bit like Facebook. I'm not sure if that's chatty enough, but I might tweak that later on. But yeah, no, it's somewhere that anyone can invite anyone, and it doesn't matter how busy it gets. It will just be useful to everyone. I want to kind of expand it as well. So maybe a builder could have like a showcase website of the guitars they built on there. Just somewhere people can navigate, and maybe if it gets more traffic than their own website, it might be useful to them that way. And if maybe even I had a crazy idea where we could have maybe like a question and answer page, but like 10 people answer the question. So like, what's the best way to carve a neck, and then 10 people give how they do it. So it could be a good information resource as well as just a chat place.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah. So rather than just getting one person's opinion on how best to carve a neck, you get lots of different ideas.
I've just put a link up at the bottom here. I don't know how you find it, Aaron, but Chris invited me to the collective website, I don't know, over a year ago. But I mean, like a lot of social media, I'm not on it a lot, but I really like
Corey at Saul Guitars has just said the same thing, needs to post more on the website. And that's probably exactly what I'm thinking as well. That, I was obviously chatting with one of the people was chatting with Chris at the time when it was started. And, at the start, you kind of use these things a lot, but then I haven't so much. And I think, a lot of when I do my, YouTube and looking at Instagram, it's on my phone rather than computer. And, it's obviously the website's a better platform to be on your PC to use that. So I think I've just got to, for me, I think it's just about, probably changing habits that, even like watching YouTube, I don't think to sit on the computer with the big screen and watch some YouTube videos. I tend to, look at it on my phone. So I think probably, just changing a few habits for me and to use it a bit more. Because, certainly it's got all the features there. And I know, when it was launched, and it was a smaller group of people on it, was really good. And nothing's changed since then. It's just that use of it.
I actually used it most with the Great Guitar Build-Off last year because there were people chatting on that, and I found the conversations on there were a bit more in depth than on the Guitar Build-Off forum themselves. But from it, there's definitely lots of people I've spoken to, and when I've got a question like I had to buy some. I was looking for some new wood, and maybe I was looking for a new supply for fret wire at one point. And I just went on there and was asking around. Obviously, it's international, but there's enough people from the UK on there to give me some advice.
But it could be another good section on the website is good suppliers for different things that everyone trusts.
That would be a good one.
Yeah.
How do you find the whole guitar building community compared to other forums and things you've been involved with before?
I think it depends where you are. If you go some Facebook forums, then people are monsters and horrible and very critical. I think if you stay around Instagram and our forum and YouTube channels, people are generally really friendly and really supportive. Sometimes if you go on like a really old established forum, then they can be a bit. I think people are fed up with hearing the same question asked every week. There's a lot of problems there, which is why a good question and answer section probably would work.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Corey just said that as well.
Compared to other types of websites, I think it's pretty much the same. You get hypercritical people and you get really friendly people. So, I mean, I've been involved in a lot of computer programming forums, and you say, I'm trying to do this, and they go, well, you're doing it completely wrong. Okay. I can't answer your question because you're starting from the wrong place. Is that?
Well, for me, this is really probably the first sort of forum group that I've been involved with. I think, prior to getting into guitar building, it would be more that, whether it was guitar playing related or something related, I'd more, if there was a question that I needed an answer to, I'd search the internet, and 9 times out of 10, rather than going to a website, it would take me to a forum link, and you'd find a thread, and you'd find an answer to the question. So that really, until a few years ago, getting involved in the Guitar Builders Collective and Great Guitar Build Off and all these forums, my experience had just been really finding one particular comment or response, and not sort of commenting or putting information on myself. So yeah, my experience has really just been this, and it has been really positive. I know we've talked about Facebook as well. I'm in a few different guitar building Facebook groups, and you hear the same thing. People have got big egos in there sometimes, and it's not helpful.
Yeah, no, everyone seems really friendly in the Guitar Builders Collective. So obviously what you've done is spurred off other things, like Corey runs the Instagram page, which I love because I'm on Instagram far too much. And then it spurred us on to do things like this and try and get everyone involved and swap rounds. So thank you for that. Yeah, so I should mention as well that obviously anyone can join the forum. There is also, which we'll talk about a bit later, I think, the Great Guitar Build Off family, which is a Facebook group, which is a private group that you can join if you're building for the Great Guitar Build Off. But it's managed by a few of the people from the Guitar Builders Collective. So Todd from Sweet Tea Guitars and Scott, who is normally with us here, and they've just made me an admin as well. So to join it, you just need to send us a message on Facebook or here, and we can invite you along. But,
I've explored that a little bit since last week to find out about it, because I mean I've had a Facebook account that pretty much doesn't get used. I'm in a few message groups that when that's how people organise things. So I've had a bit of an explore with that as well. So that's going to be really good to be part of.
Yeah, and I like the Guitar Builders Forum. I find it all really lovely and friendly. So, Chris, with your guitars, is there one thing about them you think that makes them different to other guitars or makes them more unique?
Yes, one of the more unique features, if it's possible to qualify the word unique, I'm sure we're triggering people there, is probably the neck carve, where it's not a bolt-on, it's a set neck, but it's also kind of completely out of the way, full access. And also, I went for a tilt back headstock, which isn't that unique, but it kind of, on a Strat style guitar, you don't see it too often, which does away with the need for string trees because it's already an angle going over.
I think I've said this every time I see them, but I really like your necks and the way it goes into the headstock with the transition of the wood sort of appearing on the side of the headstock as well. Yeah,
I need to feature them more. I haven't done a lot in terms of videos on YouTube about them. I kind of start a video and then I get so much into the guitar that I forget to record it. And then I finished it. And the last time I did that, I sold the guitar and I didn't actually have a chance to actually finish or do a video about it. But yeah, I probably should go into that more on videos and stuff so people can see it. Because that, if linking into shows later on, that's something I struggle with the shows because I can't, if you've got all your guitars facing out, they can't see the neck transition. So I haven't worked out to display that properly. Well, I could get. You've got a rotisserie on yours, so that's not a rotisserie.
I like the word rotisserie, but yeah, I had a rotisserie stand.
It's a pig.
Yeah, I also noticed at the show how colourful your guitars are. Bright, bold.
That's something. I mean, I've only been doing shows for about a year now. London last year was my first one, and that was that October. But I had guitars that are like beige, kind of just plain wood, not stained but not painted, and people just don't look at them. If you've got like a really nice fancy piece of flame wood, people will. But there was the guitar behind me actually. It just was completely ignored for 6 shows, and I painted it blue, took it to this show, and it was the #1 guitar everyone picked up. So I think as an independent builder, introducing colour is probably something that will get you noticed. I don't think you have to worry about that, Daniel, with your guitars. I think they definitely get noticed. But
it was certainly in the Instagram photos that you were both sharing. Yours, Chris, just with the colours, you straight away, you noticed them on the stands and the tables. And what I liked about it as well, because obviously you repainted the back, and you do have that smooth transition from the neck to the body.
Yeah.
But where you obviously got to decide where a line's going to be for where the paint stops and the neck starts. And that was one of the things that I really like about them from seeing them on photos, that despite having this really smooth transition, you've also got this nice clean line which doesn't wreck that.
For context,
yep.
Quite a distinct line where the bodywood goes into the maple.
And I think the fact that it's bright colours, but unlike other bright coloured guitars, it's not a paint job, it's the wood. It's the stain, so you can see the wood on it. And it's not a fancy stain that's like a sunburst or something like that. It's just a bold
plain colour, yeah. I think that does go back to the guitars that I want to play. I think maybe to do that, you have to build the guitars you want to play, and then that's the ones you end up making. I mean, that finish is, Osmo Polyax or Pollux, whatever. They do like 4 or 5 coloured versions, like a red, a blue, a green. So that's what I've used on that. So it's, for someone at home, it's quite an easy one to apply. It's literally as a wipe on, wipe off type finish. So I couldn't spray in here, unfortunately. And if I outsource that adds at least 400 quid to the price of a guitar for someone else to do it. So
so talking about the making in your space, you mentioned earlier it's the garage. Are there things that you have had to sort of work around in that space that you have like developed a new jig for or something like that? Or is there some particular process you really like with the guitar making that you enjoy the most?
I honestly don't like how it's set up at the moment. It's there's no airflow, which is the worst thing in here. Because this wall here, where you can see these clamps hanging up, that would be where the garage door is, and I just boarded it up with wood.
Right.
So if I was to improve it, I would have some better airflow, because at the moment, if I want to do routing, especially with MDF, I have to take it outside to do. And if I do it just there, it will go all over the neighbour's car. So, but no, I do have. I can't put them out to show you, but I've got lots of jigs that work with the router table, and that's probably the main way I work, because I don't have a table saw, I haven't got a bandsaw, I haven't got a joint or anything like that. And not particularly with the hand tools either. So most of the stuff I do is using the router table. I've got lots of big jigs with one of the best inventions that Lewis introduced me to was that you get on Amazon these little clamps that you screw to the wood, and that lever, and it just clamps it down, so you don't even need to double-sided sticky tape anything on. It just holds it in place.
I'd love in the future to have a sort of look around people's workshops.
That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, I think people do really like a workshop tour on YouTube. So perhaps.
Or maybe you could add that to the Guitar Builders collection.
Yeah, workshop tours. That's a good idea. Yeah, because I initially started. You can probably see there's a bit of tape here on the ceiling, and I had a curtain around this area here, which is like 2 meters by 2 meters, and that's what I started off in with a Black & Decker workmate, and I've kind of gradually tried to take over the whole garage.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good transition, as you were just mentioning the shows.
Yes.
And we've already gone like half an hour in. If Arran wants to take over with discussing shows with you, and I'll keep an eye on the chat. So if anyone's got any questions for Chris, or about comments about guitar shows that you want to feedback, I'll highlight some on the screen, but then I can repeat them all a bit later on in a little question session at the end. I think Corey might have suggested if you've got a question to put it in the chat. It might be good to do it in bold because then it will stand out more. It looked like you're shouting it at us.
Or capital letters, I think he suggested too.
Yeah.
Something like that. Make it obvious.
Yes.
So I suppose with the shows, then you were both at the most recent show. So maybe just start to tell us a bit about what that show was and how it went.
Yeah, that was a brand new show for this year in Brighton. And I think it went really well. It was 300 or 400 people went to this one, which I know in terms of some of the bigger shows in the US is absolutely nothing. but in Britain, they were usually, most of them are quite small. And it was a different layout to the ones I've been before because they had 2 rooms. One of them was a pedal room with just pedals, and they had silent rigs in there, so it's quite weird walking around there seeing people playing guitars and no noise coming out. Yeah. Whereas where we were in the guitar room, it was pretty much all independent makers at the show, which is, I don't know if that's a sign because it's a new one. There were no bigger brands there. And that kind of made it a good feel, actually, because lots of people to chat to, lots of friends to make. Because if there's something people who make guitars like doing, it's talking to other people about making guitars. Yeah, it was quite nice because I was next to Daniel, actually, so we could...
Was that just by chance, or was that arranged prior?
I think it was arranged. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the right word there, because we were next to the other guys we know in the boutique guitar builders.
Yeah, and that's something I was going to ask about as well, because seeing a few, the people that I follow on Instagram from the UK, that often when you share your photos, there'll be a stall in the background. It's like, I recognise that logo or something as well. So yeah, there's a few of you that have started sort of sharing exhibits as well in past shows. Yeah,
it's just a way of well, 2 things. It saves a bit of money to share shows, but you can also, the idea is to create a kind of stall that you can walk into rather than just, because sometimes when you're fighting against people going past the flow against all the tables, if you've got a bigger area that you can invite people into, there's like a carpet and a nice backdrop. And just encourage people to try out the guitars. It's it gives it a much better feel that way.
Yep.
And you can also nip out to the toilet if someone else is there.
Someone can do the coffee run or the lunch run. And,
yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of questions or things do people want to know about your guitars? Is it more about how you make or construct them, or what they sound like, or what kind of things do people want to know?
If someone's asking a lot of questions, they tend to be someone else that builds guitars, which is always quite amusing. Because you have a conversation with someone and they'll be chatting away to you and you're thinking, oh, this is good, they're really interested, and then they bring their phone out and say, you want to talk about guitars. But anyway, the people that are actually interested in the guitars they don't really tend to ask questions. I think they just want to grab one and try it, which is why it's good to have a really a good way somewhere for them to sit and play the guitars. Which is something I'd need to improve. I don't actually own a really good amp for them to try it on, and that I think can make or break whether someone actually buys a guitar, because if it sounds wicked on an amp, then they're going to go for it. If it sounds a bit wimpy, not. But you do get people asking questions. They're often, I like this, but do you do it in another colour, or do you do stainless steel frets, or just various quite rudimentary questions, I think. Actually, the most common question I get asked is, where are you based? So I don't know if that's, if you're spending a lot of money on a boutique guitar, you might want to be quite close to the person making it. I know a lot of people, if you want to make a lot of money, you have to be able to ship to America, I think, is because the market over there is so much bigger compared to everyone else in the world.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see, well, I would assume that there'd be a lot of, similar types of guitar shows in the US than there is in the UK, like a lot more opportunities. But I mean, that's the problem with Australia here a little bit, maybe like the US, that I've had the Melbourne Guitar Show, which is in Victoria, but if I want to go to any other shows, I'm sure the other capital cities have guitar shows, but it's a plane ride or a day and a half drive to get there, which isn't going to happen on a weekend.
Yeah, I was thinking that when you mentioned shows anyway. I was like, how close are you to Melbourne? I don't know, because
I'm actually, depends on the time and the traffic. Probably, realistically, the centre of Melbourne, I'm probably an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half.
Not too bad then.
Yeah, on weekends, if you're going, and the shows are often, the other side of Melbourne or whatever in the suburbs. So realistically on a weekend during the day, it's probably 2 hours to get to a location. So that's certainly doable for a day trip and making the trip up the highway.
I think maybe there's a lot of guitar shows in the UK because we don't like driving anywhere. It's like US and Australia, you're just used to just getting in the car and going for miles and hours, days. Whereas the UK, I have to go down the road. No, not doing that.
Yeah. So what about the gear and stuff that you've got to take along to set up? You mentioned sort of bringing amps and things like that, and whether I know the Melbourne I've been to that some people have got amps that are just played loud, and then other people have headphones. And I know the Melbourne Guitar Show, I think it's every 15 minutes in every hour it's quiet time, so no one's allowed to play. They put announcements over, and it's 15 minutes of quiet, so you can actually talk to the people. And then apart from that, it's anyone's going to play. So is that something that you got to think about what to take along as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think different shows have different quiet time, loud times. But yeah, at most shows you will get a table, whether you want a table or not, because you might have built a fancy display is another question. But that's the Brighton one was the first one where I've never been given a tablecloth, which was a surprise 2 days before. So always check, see if you're going to get a tablecloth. I think the first thing I said to Daniel when he said for any advice was take a comfortable pair of shoes, because if you're not used to standing up all day in one spot, that becomes a real pain. But yeah, no, you've got to take stands for the guitars to stand on. I would take all the tools you need to change anything on the guitar, just because something may go wrong. I took a roll of gaffer tape this time, and I was the only one, I think, in about 4 stalls along that had any gaffer tape.
We all needed it.
Yeah, or duct tape, whatever you might want to call it where you are. But yeah, just things like that. All the tools you might need. I would always take sandwiches because I'm always concerned about food, and some drinks. What else is really useful to take on a stall?
Your lights were really good.
Oh, my stand. Yes, yeah. Yeah, there were just a couple of spotlights. LED spotlights are up. It's just under £20 you can get them for. So, and on my guitars where it's got the curved bevel going round, if the lights are all washing out from above, you can't really make that out. So having a couple of lights pointing up at the guitars does make it stand out.
I suppose that's getting the attention, isn't it, of people walking past, giving them something to come over and start a chat about. Yeah,
I think as I go along, I'll probably learn more and more things that are useful to take with me as well. Maybe a credit card machine would be a good thing to take if you want to take payments on the day. I've only sold a guitar at one show, but I was so glad I had the machine because then I could just take the money there and then.
Yeah, there's been a couple of questions I think Daniel's put on the screen. One was from Corey about commissions. How, if someone's commissioning a guitar, how much do you take up front to start the ball rolling? And Corey said he normally asked about half up front.
I would cover all the costs of the woods and the hardware and the cost of getting them to you. Enough to make sure you're not going to make a loss if it backs out, essentially, I would. Which could be up.
Have you found the shows are a good place for commissions?
No, everything I've ever had a commission has been online. So I don't know if shows are the future or not, or whether you have to get it in the hands of players. Mostly on YouTube or Instagram, or where people look. Or if you're lucky enough, I guess a band that's famous. But yeah, I think to sell at a show, you need to have take a bargain model with you to kind of, so someone could actually buy it that day rather than a full price one. But yeah, no, I'm like I say, I've only been doing it a year, so I'm still working out the best ways to work at the shows.
Yep. There's another good question there, BB Guitars. Do you get nervous with people picking up and playing your guitars in front of you if someone's going to damage or drop or scratch them?
The way I don't get nervous about that is just accepting that it's probably going to happen. And anything that you take to a show, you can always sell as like an X demo or a B stock or something like that. I think so. Yeah, I don't get nervous because I've accepted that they might get damaged. But yeah, I don't know how you get around being nervous if that's the only one you've got there. Yeah,
I know, not having obviously done shows and things like that, but I know when other people have played guitars that I've made, that they often seem a bit apprehensive, like, oh, I don't want to, they're the ones that are nervous and they don't want to scratch it. And for me, it's I don't care. Like, I want you to play. I want to hear what it sounds like from someone else, and they're going to get damaged. And in my head, I like the idea of these road worn, not relic, but actually guitars that have dings and scratches. And I know even mine, my earliest guitars that I had as a teenager that have been scratched over the years. They've never passed that point where they get scratched enough that they're like, road worn. They've always been on the wrong side of where they're scratched enough to be annoying, but not enough damage to start to look, worn in and cool.
It's almost like once you get your first scratch, then that's when you relax with a new guitar. So once the damage has started, then you're fine. I can't remember now. I had something I was going to say on that point, but I can't remember now.
That's right.
I'd be quite, because that was the first show I've actually physically been to as an exhibitor. But when I was younger, I went to a bass specific show, which was massive, and a guitar show, which was massive. Because I think maybe that would have been 20 years ago. There weren't so many shows, and I was so overwhelmed, and I didn't enjoy it at all. I just wondered how this show that we just had compares to the other shows. Have they got their personalities and differences and things?
Yeah, they've all got big personalities. Were they the big shows at Olympia that they used to have in the past? Arranged by I think they were usually arranged by guitar magazines, so they had like a big audience to advertise to as well. Whereas I think a lot of people just shop online now. So in terms of sizes, for the ones I've been to, it's probably in the middle there somewhere. Birmingham was massive. Whereas the Northampton one was a lot smaller, but they all have their merits, and they all have their personalities. The Brighton one did feel quite friendly. The Bristol one, the people who came to the show were all ridiculously friendly and chatty, more so than any other show I've ever been to. So I don't know whether that says something against the people who live in London versus the people who live in Bristol, but in terms of. One thing I noticed about the Brighton one, people seem to come in waves more often than others, and I don't know if that's because they had a room off in another building where they were doing question and answer sessions and demos and stuff like that, or whether literally people were just coming after they had lunch or tea or stuff like that. But I hadn't noticed that quite so much in other ones. What was the outdoor one guitar show? I don't know.
I wonder if that was the Boutique Guitar Festival.
Oh the one at Mike's house. That was how the Boutique Guitar Collective. It wasn't called that though, was it? It was Lewis and Mike from China Guitar were setting up a festival to kind of promote local talent and local builders. I think initially they had planned to have it in a venue where the public could go. But lockdown happened and all that sort of stuff happened, so it ended up being a YouTuber event at Mike's house. So that's what that was.
That was the one. There was a lot of demos and interviews on people's YouTube channels. No,
it was good. It was, for me, it's the first time anyone else who was good at playing guitar had ever played my guitars. So it was quite eye-opening for me. There was one bit where.
They sounded amazing, and I remember chatting to you at the time, and you were so excited for what this what your guitar was sounding like.
It was quite affirming, really. There was Mike Bradley who plays guitar, and he was like noodling away, just getting higher and higher up the board and bending notes. And I was like, "Oh God, don't choke out!" And thankfully, it didn't, so that was good. But it was for me that was really good because really good guitar players had never played my guitars before, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was arranged by Mike, who had a channel called originally China Guitar Skeptic. But he's done loads of YouTube things and supported loads of young YouTubers and helped lots of small builders like us. But unfortunately, he passed away earlier this year. So it's really sad. But he was just such a great guy at sort of organising things like that and pushing things to get people involved. So it was because of him he managed to get all those international YouTubers over to be part of it.
That's also going to ask too for the different shows you've been to, Chris. I sort of recognise different guitar players or builders that have got stalls or playing guitars. Have you sort of been starstruck by anyone that you've met or seen at these shows?
Have I been starstruck? I don't know if I've been starstruck. What usually happens is someone's walking past. I go, I know you're off YouTube. Who are you? Who are you? Because you want to shout their name at them before they've gone past. No, I don't think I've ever seen anyone quite big enough to be starstruck by them, but it does throw you a bit when it's like someone you've seen on the screen all the time. And it's like, oh, you're in real life. Yeah. But no, there was no big starstruck moments, I don't think.
Yeah. One of the things
cool. I just interrupt there. So he seems to be quite friendly now with the Guitar Nerds guys. I don't know if you know them, Arran. I think they're amazing, like full of knowledge. But, yeah, they talked about Chris's guitars that they'd seen at a previous show on one of their podcasts, and they were, really, really loved them. And at the show on the weekend, they just came over and had a chat with him, and brilliant.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah,
I was just laughing. So I was just laughing because I saw Jake Lee, who was one of the guitarists at the show. Was in the comments, and you're saying it's okay to say me, Chris. Don't be shy.
Hey, Jake.
Yeah, no. I think it was definitely Mike because he was noodling up the high end. It would all be pinch squeals if it was Jake. So just winding you up. No, sorry, you were going to ask a question.
Yeah, I was just going to say, at the one of the things they do at the Melbourne Guitar Show is they have guitarists doing performances. So they have a couple of, it's at a race course, so they've got maybe 2 or 3 stages in different parts. And they'll either have, like it might be a touring guitarist, just playing a 45-minute set, or it might be a guitarist playing and demoing and doing a Q&A on, some of the builders that are there. The guitar shows in the UK, have they had those kind of things with sort of demo sessions or Q&A sessions?
Yeah, I think depending on the size of the show and the budget, depends on the size of how famous the person is doing the demos. Yeah. But yeah, no, there was some quite big names at the Birmingham one. I think that's where most of them do that. Well, yeah. Jake again in the comments was at the Bristol show doing demos for Lewis actually. So I think, which was a surprise to him, but yeah, I think it's mostly guitarists that I've never heard of, but then that might just be my poor memory. There are a lot of guitarists in the world who I only know because they have a signature model. I've got no idea what band they're in, or even what style of music it is.
How are we going for questions in the comments? I've been trying to look as well, Daniel, at the same times. Try to follow more of the comments this time.
Yeah, no, I'm keeping an eye on them. Yes, if anyone does have. I was also interested. Have you noticed if there's sort of a difference in the people that are coming with their buying habits? Because I remember it might have been Stuart that you mentioned from SBC telling me that there are certain guitar shows where it's people that want very traditional looking things. And someone said to me at Brighton that they were surprised how many metal guitars there were around, as in sort of set up or built with heavy metal or rock in mind.
Yeah, I think as a builder, you either have to make the traditional models really, really well, or you have to do something that's going to set you apart. And so making a metal guitar, I suppose, is one way of distinguishing you, because you can kind of step outside what's the normal expected bits. Yeah, I guess it might depend on how the show's been advertised as well as to who's going to be there. And with the Brighton one again, I don't know where it was advertised. So that might dictate the crowd a lot.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So over the shows that you've done, Chris, what tips would you give to someone who would be thinking about doing that for the first time? What have you learnt that would be helpful?
Don't stand behind your stall. Stand out front or by the side so you can grab people, talk to them. Because people, well, you have to judge it. Because sometimes you'll say hello to someone and they go and then run off, but which is probably fair enough because I probably would as well. But yeah, no, don't be afraid to talk to people, chat to people. That would be one bit of advice. Have a good audio rig, which is something I haven't got yet. Daniel's is really cool. In fact, Daniel's is really cool because it's in like an old IKEA cabinet with it looks like something you'd have in your lounge. If I had the USB next to me, I'd drag it out, but it's up in the roof at the moment. What else was there? Yeah, no, chatting to people is also important because a couple of people have come when I've been talking about the guitars. They're like, "Oh, you made these?" It's like whether they thought they were like a brand you've imported from somewhere. So if you're not talking to people, people aren't going to know that. And I think when people are laying a lot of money down on an expensive guitar, they kind of want to buy into you a bit. So as well as the actual guitar itself. So yeah, it's worth getting to know the people. What other tips are there apart from sandwiches and comfortable shoes? I can't think of anything now. But yeah, chatting to people was definitely the way forward. I know the first show I went to, the London one, I didn't really enjoy it. I was next to Chris Hutton from King Bespoke and from 4th Avenue. And Chris is a massive personality. It's like that in real life. It's not just like that on his YouTube channel. It was like, oh, God, I can't do that. But I kind of learned that I had to kind of come out. And Ant was chatting to everyone as well, grabbing people and suggesting they look at these guitars as well. So, yeah, that's definitely the way to go.
Yep. And how many guitars do you think you would need to take along? Because obviously, you need more than just one guitar to have on show. What sort of range? How many do people generally have at the shows you've been involved in?
I think 3 at the very minimum, and then you can probably get 6 on one 6-foot table. That way, I think have a variety would be a good one. Left-handed guitars. If a left-handed guitarist walks into the room, they're going to just hone straight in on you and come over. Yeah. So maybe throw, even if you don't know you're going to sell an electric guitar, it's a good way of demonstrating you can.
Because you've got a lefty, and you had a lefty on your.
Yeah, I've got 2 of them on my store. Yeah. And they do generally get well accepted. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, pleased to see them.
I'm just going to. BB Guitars has said QR codes for your socials would be handy. I thought that was a really clever idea, so I had QR codes. No one was scanning them unless I pointed them out and encouraged them. But everyone's picking up cards from everybody's table. They want the physical thing to take away. So I was wholly surprised by that. I thought I was being down with the kids, but not at all.
Yeah, no, I've got a QR code on my sign. I've got QR codes on my business cards, and I've never seen anyone take a photograph of them. But actually, don't just put your cards in a box. Is another tip. If you can have them, just lay them out across the table a bit, and then people are more likely to walk past and just grab one. Whereas I've had people ask if they can take a card if they're in the box. It's like, yeah, of course, please take one. But
I always taking a card if they've got one there, or a sticker as well is always good. Good to grab. Maybe that just shows my age as well. When you're on the way home, when you get home later, it's easy to flick through 5 or 6 cards that you've picked up. Like, I remember that one, rather than having to scroll through your phone and open 5 or 6 tabs.
And actually, there's a comment there. I'm going to try and steal one of my kids' tablets and have like a slideshow on the stand as well, because like it does show you available builds, and also I can't remember his name now. Chris, who was just around the corner from me, not Chris Hutton. He had a slideshow, but he also had guitars in progress shots as well, which kind of reassures the people looking at you actually making them. So yeah, that's a good idea actually.
I saw the comment there about having some kind of screen as well, and that's what I've said with a few that I've been to.
I don't know if it's good psychology, because if there's something moving, you might catch people's eye more than if something's static.
Yeah, or like I had, everyone kept thinking it was falling over.
Yes, I was going to say that. Right. I kept panicking every time your guitar got on a certain point when it's spinning, and it's like, oh God, it's falling over. Oh no, it's not. It's just turning. But perhaps
so Daniel, about yours, with obviously your guitars standout has been different from probably most others at the show. Do people that don't know what you do you get some weird reactions or double takes when they see some of your creations?
There were very few people that didn't make a face. There was either the "what the hell is that?" or the "oh, what is that?" kind of face. but yeah, I don't know. I had a few extra things that I thought would draw people in. I mean, obviously, I want the guitars to draw people in, but I wanted some gimmicky things because I thought it would just make for more Instagram sort of heavy photos. But surprisingly, there wasn't that much happening in the way I thought there would be. Especially as it was there were a lot of locals that were there, a lot of younger people, and I think it was mainly advertised through social media. So I kind of expect it to be. But like I said with the QR codes, when I pointed it out to people, some people were like, what's that?
Yeah. Actually, at the last show I did, I had signs woven into the strings saying, please pick me up, please play me, things like that. And people did. And I didn't do that at the show, and there was less people doing that. So maybe you need to give people more permission without actually...
Maybe people think they can't touch them or aren't allowed to touch them unless, you're off.
Yeah. There are a lot of stands that have like custom shop Fenders and Gibsons or vintage guitars in them, and they have signs up saying "Do not touch." So perhaps they're just assuming that's applying to everyone. Whereas,
or the ones that are in the glass boxes that you obviously want to touch.
Yeah.
So how did you find it talking to other builders, like going around and meeting other builders there? Or did you just not do that?
Yeah. I think I mostly spoke to people I'd already talked to on Instagram, and so that was always a way into the conversation, where I'd already said we're going to say hello. Sorry. Yeah. I think. Oh no, I've locked my wife out. I'm going to come back in a second.
I was just going to say as well, Aaron. Maybe I like the idea of keeping them quite short, but we had suggested we might mention a few great guitar build-off things at the end. Do you?
Yep.
Why wait for? Oh, there he is.
I'm popular. Sorry. Yes. What? I can't remember what we were saying now. Did I interrupt you when I came back?
I don't remember what we were saying either.
I've forgotten as well. I was listening to Daniel what we were going to talk about next, and then you were back.
Oh, yeah, I was asking about talking to other builders, because I found that really interesting, just meeting other builders and seeing how they worked, and seeing people like you mentioned before who have, like, there was one guy, Valiant Guitars. The guitars are built in Ukraine, and he is the distributor for them in this country. And it was just interesting hearing the story about how he fell in love with these guitars and wanted to help promote them and things like that.
Yeah, I think I mostly talk about technical things because maybe social awkwardness when I speak to other people on stands. But I think the more and more shows you go to, and the more and more you see the same faces, and the conversations kind of get a bit easier. Mick Carr said something earlier about saying hello, but there's people around me, and that really freaks you out when you go to a guitar show and someone comes up and goes, "Are you Chris Franklyn?" I said,
"Oh yeah."
How on earth do you know that? I've got a YouTube channel with 700 subscribers. It's not. But yeah, that was there's always a surprise. Yeah.
So just a quick transition, unless anyone's got more questions about shows, or have we missed something important out, you think, Chris, that's worth saying?
Oh, I don't know. I was going to say no. It's just when you were saying about people rolling their eyes or going, "That's really cool." I haven't. I expected people to look at my guitars and go, "What the hell is that?" Because but I've always had a much more positive reaction to that. So I'm thinking if people are afraid of getting criticised, then don't be. Just go along and do it.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, I had no idea if I wanted to do shows. I still don't know if it's worth doing.
Yeah.
But, I previously had some guitars at shows that I hadn't been at. I'd sent them along with the collective Chris is talking about. They had their little space where they had their own stalls, but then they brought some guitars along from people that couldn't physically make it to the shows, which I think was a great idea. And from that, I had like one potential opportunity, which is still potentially going on, which I can't really talk about too much, but it's going to be an opportunity to showcase guitars in a different setting to what I normally do come out of it. And what I found this time is through the conversations I was having, although I'm not sure yet if anything's led to any sales, there's two people I'm going to be collaborating with or almost definitely collaborating with, obviously at early stage, and that came out of conversations with people there, which was really interesting. And I don't know if collaborations is the way forward for me, because it's just then it's another thing where I'm not making the guitars. But one thing that I definitely like about, for example, going back to the Guitar Builders Collective idea, is this community of people. And being someone that's building guitars on my own in a workshop all day, is quite nice to have an opportunity to interact with other people and do something. So that was just great. Chris, we were talking about maybe ending by talking a bit about the Great Guitar Build-Off. I've picked a couple of things just to briefly show. I wonder if you could just tell us what your involvement was with that, because that's how I first came across you. Was stuff from the Build-Off.
Yeah, I've not really done it for the last 2 years properly, but the very first year there was Texas Toast Guitars and Ben Crow were kind of doing the build-off, and then they invited a few other people, and then I noticed that, I'm trying to remember their names now, Ray from who's in the collective was one of them, and some other people were like, yeah, we were doing a build along as well. I was like, right, I can do that. And at that point, Ben Crow said on one of his live streams that there was 14 people building along. So I thought, oh, this would be quite cool. And then the next live stream was saying there's 200 people building along. So yeah, I kind of got involved that way. And that was the year of the OSB neck guitar that Corey was talking about earlier, which was working up until I put it in storage, so it might still be. And I think the year later I did a yellow sparkly SG type guitar as well. Just I was trying to do things that stand out rather than show off how good a craftsman I am, I think. Yeah. This year I'm going on holiday in a few weeks, so I'm going to try and take my laptop and in the evenings catch up on a few builds, because Scott playlists, and I'd be ashamed to not use them. But so I'm not really aware of what's going on this year so much. But yeah, if you got a couple you wanted to show, you say.
Oh well, just I can't remember if there's a link in the description to this video to the Guitar Builders, the Great Guitar Build-Off family, because it's a private group. But like I said, if anyone wants to join it, just do message, and you can message Corey, myself, Scott, Todd at Sweet Tea. Anyway, and Corey's Saul Good Guitars. Yeah, on that sort of forum page, or whatever you call it, group on Facebook, there's a couple of things that I saw and I wanted to share them, but then I realized that actually they're both by the same person. Funny. One of them was just someone here. It's not finished yet, but it's Eddie Cameron saying he wasn't certain whether to enter the Great Guitar Build-Off because he's not sure with deadlines whether he can finish things. And Todd from Sweet Tea had actually suggested, well, there's the community build, and the point of the community build is, I think, to have a lot less pressure, and for people that aren't certain if they're gonna what they're gonna make, or how confident they are with sharing, to enter. And also you don't have to pay to enter it. And of course the competition's running to the end of the year, so I think if you're building something with that in mind, taking some photos of it, you might as well, even with the community where you don't have to pay for it, sort of join in with the community. Lots of people don't finish their builds, but it's just a good way to have that sharing element. But then the other one that he had was this. I'll just play the video. I think the sound's on silent. The Stormbringer guitars. So they look like Strats, but what I love about it, I think this is right, they're called Stormbringer, and they're from guitars that he felled because they were damaged in a storm. And the guitar you buy comes with the grid reference of where the tree was before it was felled and the date it was felled on. So you know that all the woods come from a very specific tree at a very specific time. I thought that was such an interesting idea.
Nice idea.
So that first one, was that like a twin neck cigar box guitar?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool.
But I just love the way it had been.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I'd seen there's a company not too far from here, maybe in Surrey somewhere, that do urban logging. So they get city logs, trees that have been felled in cities where they're dangerous, and they actually tell you the grid reference of where they come from as well. So I wondered if that might be a novel thing to do in future guitars.
Yeah. Cool idea.
Can even have the carving of the coordinates somewhere on the
Yeah, that'd work.
somewhere
Or
display.
what free words app? You could put the free words that locate where it came from. Yeah.
Arran, have you spotted anything over on Instagram?
Yeah, there's a couple I'm not going to be able to share the screen since I'm on the different link that I had to join
I'm
with.
sorry about that. I thought you'd still
No,
have.
I think I was just yeah, I'm not sure what happened. We didn't have time to troubleshoot it. So I'm happy just to mention them. I did have the tabs up here ready to go. But so yeah, two that I wanted to mention. The first one is our mate Corey in the chat. Because I've sort of, yeah, it's the ones that people have made a fair bit of progress, the people that were pretty keen to get started. So even though I can't share, everyone needs to go to Corey at Saul Good Guitars Instagram and look at the neck in particular on his guitar. He's pretty much laminated all the pieces at 45 degrees or an angle or whatever angle it is. So you've got this really cool curved alternating pattern of wood, and it just looks amazing. And he's got his videos out on YouTube as well. The top that he's got on it, it's a stunner as well. So that one, he made a lot of progress initially on it, and it's definitely worth checking that one out. I think a lot of us are looking forward to seeing how that finishes off. But yeah, he's got a few videos, I think, or shorts on the neck as well. So that's the first one there that I was going to share. The other one, which I think could even possibly be one of the first guitars that was finished. Oh, there we are. Corey just mentioned now 20 degrees, 86 laminations on the neck, which is pretty impressive. And I remember, like, early on, I think.
Is this the one?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Yep. So he's got quite a few pictures of it, and then a few little videos as well. But I remember like messaging him or chatting to him, and he was trying to explain like his glue up and how it worked, and I just couldn't get my head around it. I needed to see what it looked like to fully understand. So.
It reminds me of a snake.
As well.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, that was that's really impressive. So that's definitely one to watch. And the other one is Cade from Ravencroft Guitars, and I think he's been in the build off, I think, since the first official one. I think this might be his third that he's been in. But yeah, he was, I know, following him, really keen to get started, and as far as I know, I think he was the first finished guitar that I have seen so far. So yeah, he's definitely worth checking out. The top that he's used is fantastic. Just lots of, I don't know if it's a burl or just the figuring in it. You've got it there too. Yes, it's not that one. So that's one of his pin ones. If you scroll down a bit.
Oh, is it this one?
That one there on the left. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, so if you flick through those photos, but I think having one of the first guitars done in the build off, and also he's one in the forums, on the official GGBO forums that they've had on the website. He's been one of those guys that's fully involved in the community and really supportive, and makes tons of comments as well. So I love that. It's a great photo, that one. So yeah, definitely he's worth checking out as well. So they're my two, and I think since we've sort of talked about this, since the competition is over 7 months, it's really good to see these ones that have made a lot of progress or finished them, right towards the start.
I'm gonna have to. I think the problem I'm finding with the Great Guitar Build Off is it just sort of spread out. I'm quite excited towards the end of the year of seeing lots of finished things. And like you, Chris, I haven't had a time really to sit down and catch up on all the videos that are going up. I've put a link in this description, though, to the playlists that Scott's done, because Scott, every morning, he showed me and Arran his little website he's built that does all the searches for the keywords to help him find them. But he'll find all the new videos that have gone up, put them in the right playlists. So there's a playlist for all the different elements of the competition to watch.
There's a good few good comments there. Yeah. Corey just said Cade, does a lot of charity and giveaway builds as well, which is really cool. And there we go, posts a lot of content about that. So just one of those really cool guys that does a lot of things for other people. And he's also a fellow school teacher, so I kind of feel a bit of affinity that nobody, what his day job's like, and then being able to build guitars on the side. And Corey says if there's no demo of his neck, it means that it's just crumbled and disintegrated. I need to just put some screws in. How many pieces? 83? 83 little screws to pin it all together.
Yeah, a little bit super glue. 83 screws. I'm looking forward to seeing the video of that. I haven't seen that.
So I've not done one. I haven't done one scarf joint yet, let alone 86 in one guitar. Where it is.
Just before we go, did anyone have anything else they wanted to mention? I noticed that there was a chat earlier this week that Scott put up some photos of the Lego that's in his workshop, and some of the characters on it were playing, or all of them were playing guitars, but some of them were from Coco, the Disney film, and he hadn't seen it yet. So I just want to say to everyone, if you haven't seen Coco, it's a film about a boy in Mexico who wants to be a guitarist, but for various reasons in his family, listening to and enjoying music is kind of outlawed. And it's because an event that happened with his great grandmother's parents. His great grandmother's still around. She's a very old woman. Her name's Coco. So in order to sort of fulfill his dream of becoming a guitarist, he has to go to the afterlife, trace down his ancestors and find out what it was that sort of prevents them from loving music. And it is all to do with a guitarist that ran away and left the great grandmother's mother. But it's brilliant, and the songs in it are fantastic. And it's definitely one of those films that, although it's a Disney film, it appeals to all ages. I think it's not just a kids' film with the odd joke for adults in. It's definitely a great story, worth watching.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I know, when I saw that, it was, I didn't know what it was, so that'll definitely be worth a look then.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm going to put a link as well in the description. I'll do that. The Great Guitar Build-Off. Sorry, I'll start again. The Guitar Builders Collective YouTube channel's got a playlist for the Jurgs Cup, so I can put that in the description as well. Great. So I think we can do it again next Thursday if you're up for that, Arran.
Yeah, and definitely.
Hopefully, Todd from Sweet Tea will join us. I'm not sure he knows that yet. He said he was up for it. I don't know.
There was an early comment. I noticed that one, an early comment saying he'd be keen. So there we go.
Excellent. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and thanks for joining us, Chris.
No, you're welcome.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Great. And see you all next Thursday.
See you later.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Thanks. Bye.